what we set out to do was to honor these men and tell the story as they lived it, as close to reality as possible. And I think we did that, and we didn't glamorize war, and we didn't glamorize what these men had to go through for our freedoms. And it was an undertaking, for sure.
There hasn't really been enough or a lot of iterations of it told, specifically from the perspective from the black fighter pilots in the United States Air Force during World War II. So I think that was a very intriguing and enticing thing for me to tackle, subject matter-wise, creative-wise.
I tried not to speak to the families before we started filming, and then it was about 30 seconds before the premiere in LA, and someone came to me and said, "Oh, by the way, all of Crosby's kids are here." And I was like, oh, Christ alive. And I met his eldest son, and he handed me a whiskey, and he said to me, "You know, we were told that we didn't think we were going to see our dad on screen, but I feel like I got my father back." And it was such a real sort of homecoming moment. And I thought, you know what, if the critics pan it now, at least I've got a decent seal of approval, you know.
I was initially drawn to it because of the telling of black soldiers during World War II. I think that story hasn't been explored enough. And seeing a character, not even a character, a real human being like Alexander Jefferson was just an amazing opportunity to tell some real history about gentlemen who were real-life heroes.
Playing Ken Lemons, I realized very quickly that I was very lucky to be telling the story from a different point of view, from the ground crew, from the people that weren't flying the missions, but the people that were working night and day to make sure that these flying fortresses could fly and could get up the next day. And with that comes a kind of different type of mentality. Like, you're losing friends, you're seeing these people come back through trauma and tragedy, and although you're not directly involved, you're still being affected in a lot of the way. And I kind of felt like I was the audience's eyes, and that you kind of see the story of these pilots through the mechanics. So I really wanted to kind of just to bring a kind of sense of groundness to the role, and throughout that to show how, in the book that I wrote, that Ken Lemons wrote, he speaks about throughout the war how he felt he didn't want to get as close to the pilots as the war went on, because the closer you got to them, the more it hurt when they didn't make it back.
These men really, at the end of the day, were fighting for each other, right? I mean, you know, it's one thing to get to enlist, right, to be part of the war and to be part, you know, of that experience. But it's another thing when you're up there and you only have, you know, your 9 other crew members to rely on. So those bonds form in such a deep way, right? Because you have to place this trust in one another. And because we got to shoot this over a long amount of time, we really got to know each other. And, you know, John understood how, as the writer understood how pivotal and how central that those bonds were in order to, you know, make it feel more live, more real. And you know, so by the end of it, we were all, you know, as close as could be.